What's up, Customize Your Life community? I'm here with Miss Kate Northrup. And Kate, I'm so excited to have you into our community today to share with us some of your philosophies on things we can do to improve the way that we customize a life that's more in accordance with our values. And I've just really enjoyed and appreciated everything I've learned from you through your videos, through your books, with your new book that just came out, which I'm really excited for everyone to read if they haven't read it already. So I want you to talk with us a little bit about that. And yeah, so let's just get started. Now, where are you right now? Are you home? Are you in Maine?
I'm home. Yeah, I live outside of Portland, Maine.
Okay, great. And will you tell us a little bit about what you do? There's so many facets to your life. You're not just stuck in one box. So invite us into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm an author and I'm a mom. I have two little girls. I have a 1-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. My husband and I run a digital company where we have a podcast, a blog, courses, a membership for female entrepreneurs. And our focus is really on achieving more by doing less. So aligning our time with what matters to us and getting more done in less time, but also having more energy and more fulfillment.
That is awesome. And now, how old are your kids?
1 and 3.5.
Wow. So you have your hands full on top of everything, which is just a great, I love the way that you've created this life that in accordance with your philosophies and everything in your book. It's not about consistently having to do everything for everybody all the time and having this sort of like aggro approach to life, but it's more about defining the things that are important to you and doing less, but getting more in return.
Exactly.
And if you would, let's just assume our viewers know nothing about your philosophies, although I'm sure a few of them might. Just talk to us a little bit about that. How can you really do less and get more?
Well, if you think about it like a hose, and on your hose, you might have the fine mist setting and then the power spray setting. So it's the difference between doing, like if you're trying to get dirt off your driveway, it's the difference between trying to get it off with the fine mist setting where there's a little bit of water coming out of a lot of holes versus the power spray setting where there is a lot of water coming out of a few holes and it's very powerful. So our energy is like that. When we disperse it, we don't make a lot of progress because we're doing a lot of things kind of in a half-assed way versus doing a few things really well. And most of us are just trying to do too many things. And the antidote to overwhelm and being overcommitted is to literally take things off your list. And if you are feeling overwhelmed and exhausted, it's because you're doing too many things. Like, I really have not met a circumstance where that's not the case.
Yeah. And how do you know? How do you decide? Because I think we're in a culture where we're constantly saying yes to everything. How do you define those things, and are boundaries really okay? And what does that look like?
Well, I really believe in a body practice of checking in with what feels good. When I feel contracted, it's a no. When I feel expansive, it's a yes. And also, sometimes we don't know except in retrospect. So what I try to do is just like check in with myself and ask after I do things, how did that feel? And if I feel drained, I look at how can I prevent things like that ending up on my schedule again. And if I feel excited, I look at, okay, great. How can I do more things like that? And so it's refinement over time. No one's going to come out of the gate getting this right. And by the way, even the most successful people are still saying yes to things that they really shouldn't be. But over time, we get better and better at it. And so then over time, we end up carving out more time and space for the things that really do matter to us, whether they're our creative projects, our friends, our health, community organizing, like charity things that we do or whatever we do. So it's really has to do with mindfulness around our time and deciding that our value is not in pleasing people. Our value is in being able to fully show up for the things that we decide to show up for.
Wow. That is a really big nugget that I know a lot of people, if they're conscious of it, are working on, and some people aren't conscious of it. I know for a good portion of my life, I wasn't really conscious of whether or not I was trying to please people or really live a life that, was true to myself. So did that come easy to you? Did you ever struggle with that?
I still struggle with it.
Hmm.
So, it's really, I think as women in particular, we are raised to be people pleasers. We are raised to believe that it is our responsibility to take care of other people's feelings by pleasing them. And that's something I still work on, so I think it's just like getting better over time and expanding. One thing that I've had to work on is expanding my capacity to sit with knowing that somebody else is uncomfortable, whether it is my child, whether it's my husband, whether it's my mother, whether it's somebody in business where I've made a decision and now I know that that decision is right for me, yet that has made another person uncomfortable. And I think a lot of my own personal growth and for the women I work with comes from being willing to be me over here and not needing to fix their discomfort over here. And even for my children who are really little, maybe less the 1-year-old, but the 3.5-year-old, like I'm already in the practice of knowing that I've disappointed her and that I'm going to need to be okay with that. And she is going to need to expand her capacity to be resilient in the face of not getting what she wants to. And that is an ongoing practice. But the great news is, like, the more we do it, the better we get at it. And I have a much greater capacity for other people not being okay than I did 10 years ago.
That's great. So it's something that you're conscious of and you work on, and you just consistently, probably one decision at a time, get better.
One decision at a time. Yep.
And
exactly.
I totally get it. I've been able to, create a life where I'm in business with my husband as well. We're entrepreneurs, and we have 2 kids. One is 1.5, and she's at that age where certainly she is making her decisions and her calls to want to do certain things, and it doesn't always work out in her favor. And as an entrepreneur and somebody that's wearing so many different hats, you're constantly feeling like you could get pulled into 1,000 different directions if you don't set some healthy boundaries and decide and prioritize, okay, what is going to get me closer to my goals, which then in turn will serve the rest of the world, right? Because that's what, if we spread ourselves too thin, and I had to learn this, if I spread myself too thin, I'm really not worth much to anybody.
No.
Right? But if I can hone in on my priorities and what matters the most, chances are the other things that people need me to do that I have to say no to, there's someone else to fill that role. And I don't have to feel so guilty. I don't need to take it on as such a huge burden as I used to, and allow other people, because maybe that is their place and part of their priority list, and they'll do a better job.
Totally. Yeah.
So thank you for the lessons and the practices you've given us, and do less. Now, what made you want to write Do Less?
So I wrote Do Less because when I was pregnant with my first daughter, I was exhausted and I really could not function at a level that I used to, in terms of just like my tendency to go and just be doing things all day. And I cut my work time about in half during that pregnancy because I had to. My body literally just wouldn't, I just had to sleep a lot. And I was just so tired. But my husband and I run our own company, and we didn't have maternity leave or paternity leave. We don't have paid family leave in the United States. I know in a few states there's sort of a little bit, but not in Maine where I live. And so we needed to get the same results as before. And then that first year of parenthood, we only had 10 hours of childcare a week. I was really struggling with postpartum anxiety and insomnia. And then our baby wasn't sleeping and she was sick, and it was a whole thing. And so I, again, like, worked way less than ever before during that first year. And yet we sat down and we realized a year after our first daughter was born, we had made the same amount of money. And so I thought, well, then what the heck was I doing working all those hours before when I could have gotten the same result in half the time? And so I know that I am not that special. And so I figured if we could do that by accident, certainly we could do it on purpose, and certainly other people could do it on purpose too. So I set about researching about like, what does the data say about productivity? What does the data say about our energy as women, and how we can use the way we are wired to be the most creative and the most, the most fruitful? And also, like, how did this actually happen? And a lot of it honestly was implementing the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, that 80% of our results will come from 20% of our actions. And I think that because I didn't have any other option, especially in that first year of motherhood, I just didn't overthink it. I just literally only did the things that were necessary and didn't have time or energy or really care about anything else. And it worked.
So it was a great interruption, to your life. I felt the same way when my daughter was born. I thought, first of all, before she was born, I sort of felt like I had this like catastrophic deadline, all this anxiety of when she comes, am I going to still be able to do the things that I was always able to do before? And so I put myself on this deadline, and then she came. And then what I found is that she has required me to be more intentional with my time.
Yes.
To speak about and to prioritize better, and in turn, as you said, end up becoming more, I don't know if the right word is productive, but progressive or move forward.
Yep.
Better than I was doing before, because I was very reactionary before, and now I've learned how to become responsive.
Totally.
Now, how did you and your husband work these things out in terms of, you have a business together, which is unique. And my husband and I love talking to other couples who work together as well. How do you guys get on the same page with where you spend your time and how you spend your time?
Yeah, I mean, it continues to be an evolution. So since we started our business together, or since Mike joined my business, and then it's really become its whole own thing, it's taken on so many different iterations. Including, honestly, in the last 6 months, things shifted a lot as a result of our second daughter's birth. And then my husband got really sick. And he's much better now, but there was about 9 months last year where he wasn't working because he was so sick. So that really required us to work the do less tools far more than we ever had to before, because now we had 2 kids and 1 man down. So the truth is, like, we just stay in touch. We stay in communication. So Mike and I have 3 standing weekly meetings, and they are on Sunday night. We go through our shared Google Calendar, and we just look for like potential landmines in the week of scheduling snafus where like no one will be available to pick up the kids, or we didn't hire a babysitter for this thing, or I forgot to tell Mike about this meeting or whatever. So even though we share a Google Calendar and we have a rule that if we need somebody else to be at a thing, we have to send them a Google Calendar invite. Even with that, we have a backup, which is we walk through verbally the entire schedule for the week, every single week. And that it takes like 10 minutes. It's not that big of a deal. And every single week we find something that we had overlooked. So I swear it saves us like 90% of our fights in our marriage. And then on Monday morning, we do a business meeting where we just start talking about like, what's the focus for the week? What's coming up? What are you working on? What am I working on? What projects do we have? And that's prior to our whole team meeting. But we need to get on the same page first before that happens. And then Friday, we have a money meeting. So on Fridays, we go over, we use YNAB and the Profit First system. Okay. So it's called You Need a Budget, which is this software. So we just go through and we reconcile all our accounts, and we, if it's the first of the month, we pay credit cards, and we look at, we put stuff away for taxes, we look at our savings, we look at our bookkeeping, that kind of thing. So those are our 3 standing dates that happen every week. And if one of us is traveling, one of those may get rescheduled, but like, it's pretty much, we do that every single week. And a lot of the time, if I'm traveling or something, we just do it over Zoom.
It's great. I love that intentionality. So you have a team meeting, a money meeting, and was there one more?
So we do Mike and I have a scheduling meeting, a business meeting, and a money meeting. And then we have 2 team meetings during the week with the rest of our team, but those are only like 10 or 15 minutes.
Okay.
None of these things take a long time. I would say the money meeting takes the longest.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's weekly, right?
Every single week.
Yeah. Every single week. That's so great, because that, again, it allows your life to really be a planned event. So there's no surprises.
Yeah. I mean, of course there are always surprises, but
yeah,
there are more happy surprises and fewer emergencies.
true. Yeah. Because you're when those surprises come, you know where everything else is in place. So it sort of has its own place to go. Here's the surprise
Exactly.
column, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's great. And I know a lot of people out there are thinking, oh my gosh, this sounds wonderful. Here she is. She's entrepreneur, just killing it in business, killing it with her family, just killing it in life. Do you think anybody could really do what you do? Somebody that's sitting out there going, man, that's the type of life I want to be living, because it really sounds like she has created and designed the life that she truly wants to be living. What do you think about that? Do you think anybody can do this?
I do. I think absolutely anybody can do this. I mean, this has been my dream intentionally since I was a teenager. So I'm 36. So I have worked for 20 years on creating this life. And like, I do think anyone can do it. My life is also not perfect. And
wait a minute. You're not perfect?
no. So
Still
there's a
thinking
lot of
the perfect person. I haven't met him yet. So
like there's a lot of things we're working on all the time, but I will say, like, I wanted to earn income independently because I wanted to be able to stay home with my kids to the amount that I wanted to be with them. And I started working on that dream when I was 16 years old. So like, I think that what happens is, especially because we live in a time of social media, which we did not when I started having these dreams, we like look out there and we just assume that people created this within a couple of years. And most people did not. So it just takes a while, but it's so worth it.
Right.
It's so worth it. And I know people who have done it way faster than I did.
Yeah. Well, in today's world, it seems like you can compound with the information age and the internet. You can compound your efforts so much more quickly and rapidly.
Totally.
But yeah, for my husband and myself, it's taken us about 10 years to get to a place where we really genuinely feel we're living life on our terms now. And but yeah, I think that's important for everyone to remember. And this quick, this instant gratification type of culture where we're so used to being fed every single week. If you do want to go into entrepreneurship, if you do want to create an independent stream of income for yourself, it will take some time. It's tougher to build a pipeline, or it's more a long-term thought process to build a pipeline than it is to go carry a bucket to and from a water source every day.
Great point.
So understanding that mentality is something that anybody that wants to become an entrepreneur is going to have to adopt. So how long did it take you? I might have missed that. To really establish yourself, with this type of lifestyle.
I mean, I started my website in 2010. And so, but I had, I started in network marketing before then. So I had some business skills that I could apply. So I don't know. I mean, 9 years, 20 years. I don't know. Like, just like, I was independently making money. I have been independently making money for like 9 years where I didn't need other sources of income.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and I like the fact that you actually don't know how to define that question, because that just tells me you're not destination oriented.
No.
There's milestones, but there's never an ending point. Right. And having that thought process of never having arrived is always going to keep you in that growth and expansion phase of life that's going to perpetually move you into new places that are going to just create more contribution and purpose. So I think that's awesome. 9 years is great. That 9 years ago, having been able to have done that, and just being in that frame of mind moving forward is pretty awesome. So when it comes to money, because you've got some really good materials on the mindset around money as well, and those money stories that, we've created for maybe not even created for ourselves, the stories that we've adopted because of our upbringing and things that have happened to us over the years. I love what you talk about when you talk about having an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. I think, our brain is naturally designed to move towards the negative and create the negative story versus anticipating and having an expectant, abundant approach to life. Can you share with us a little bit about that? Because I love the way that you speak about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a complex topic, I will say, because we don't live in a system that's equitable for all people. So I just want to start off by saying the it's like not an equal playing field. Mm-hmm. And so that being said, we all make choices. And so one of the choices we can make, and you talked about it, being reactionary versus responsive, is how do we respond to our circumstances? And so, we don't live in an exclusive meritocracy. And there are also it's like and both. And so the part that we have control over is making sure that we're lifting up other people, especially the people who may not have started off on the same, playing field that we did. But then also with our own mindset, just really listening to how are we talking about money? Like, are you going in on the complaining about how expensive things are with hanging around the water cooler? I know it's like, are you participating in that conversation because it's this false sense of belonging because we're all agreeing on something, but it's all based on negativity? Or are you extracting yourself from those conversations and changing the subject or offering a different perspective or literally just not even participating? Like, you can go get your water and then you can leave. Right. And then noticing, like, when you're having conversations around money, something my husband and I it's not every single week because we've been doing our own internal money work for a long time, but at least once a month, one of us gets triggered about money during our money meeting. And we talk about it. Like, we talk about what that's about, whether it's a childhood thing, whether one of us is getting reminded of a parent or some circumstance that happened. So it comes up and we clear it. And we know that it's not based on the content of what is happening in that moment. It's based on something historical 9 times out of 10. And so I'll check in with Mike. I'm like, I feel like I lost you. What's happening right now? Or he'll check in with me. He'll be like, what's going on? And it's annoying, but we talk about it right then to just clear the stuff. And I think that that's the number one thing that most people don't understand is that when we are getting triggered by something in our lives, it is most of the time not about that thing. Mm-hmm. And we have to really be willing to look at what it might actually be about, which is usually something that happened in our childhood, which is annoying, but it's just true.
Right. Well, we're all a product of our experiences,
yep.
Right? Our experiences and the choices we make moving forward and the people we surround ourselves with and the books that we read.
Yep.
So how did you get to find out what those scripts were, or those stories were? Was that just through continual communication where you kept feeling the same feeling over and over again and you thought, and then you finally got to the origin point of it? Or what did that excavation process look like to be able to uncover those stories?
Well, in my first book, Money, A Love Story, I really talk about writing out your money love story, literally like writing out your money story and then deciding how you're going to change it. Because there's the story that we tell, and then there's the moment that you decide to live a different story. And that is just a moment that you decide. And so but I really believe in the excavation process because writing out your money story is so powerful. Every time people do it, they realize something about themselves that they never knew. Things come up that they just never realized were even there or impacting them so much. So I recommend really doing that. And then of course I offer a lot of extra exercises for clearing it out. But for me, it's not just about money. Something really became apparent to me just last week of something that's come up in my relationship with my mother that is like, oh my God, like what? So these things are coming up all the time. And so I think there's the first step is awareness, like, oh, wow, I'm doing this thing. Why am I doing that thing? Like, maybe I could try doing something else. And so it's awareness, and then it's looking at where did that come from. And I think sometimes it's necessary to do the work to figure out where it came from. And I honestly think sometimes it doesn't matter. Like sometimes I do think that we can just skip right to, well, let's just make a different choice. But there are times when like understanding why we did it is helpful. But then what happens is I think we can sometimes, like I think some people need therapy and some people are over therapized. And so if you've had a lot of therapy, sometimes you can end up just like hanging out in why it happened and why it's so awful. And it's like, well, you know what? You're a grown up now. So even though that happened, like, what are you going to do about it? You can either let your parents' mistakes rule your life, or you can be the ruler of your life. And so we just have to decide. That's why I really believe in like, obviously books, personal development books. I love personal development books, courses, attending events, workshops, meditation, physical exercise, having coaches. I'm a huge fan of all of those things because you never quite know what the thing is. And I really listen to my gut. Like the last coach I hired, I had known her for years, and for whatever reason, I ran into her at a wedding and I was just like, she's my person, and I hired her. And then the next coach I'm going to hire, I've known her for years. I haven't seen her in a million years. I ran into her at an event and I was like, oh, she's next. So I just really listen to like where my rocket of desire is. And I get a very clear, like, that's my person. So listen for that. Like if it's your person to go to an event, to hire as a coach, to take their course, really listen for the resonance.
That's great. Coaching, mentorship is so valuable. It is so needed and necessary. And, my husband and myself, we credit the results we've been able to create in our life simply to that, mentorship, and then having the audacity to pursue it. Yeah. And then having the smarts, I guess, to really implement what is being taught to us or what is being advised to us, versus trying to figure it out on our own. I've yet to meet anyone who is truly self-made. Yeah. There's usually a whole team. I love Abby Wambach's new book, Wolfpack, where she talks about pointing to all of the people that helped her make the goal. If you don't know who Abby is, she was, I know you know who she is, Kate, but for our viewers, she's a 2-time Olympic soccer player, athlete, just incredible. And she said that every time she would score a goal, she would turn around and point at all the players that helped her make that goal. So I love that you're talking about receiving coaching and mentorship and knowing that although you've done all these great things already and so many people would applaud you and say, hey, you've arrived, you've got it all figured out. You're going, no, I need to learn more. I need more accountability. I need more growth. I need that next level of insight in my life to get me to the next place.
Like, absolutely. But I also want to say it's both. It's really like Mike and I were talking this weekend, my husband, about how it is really possible to be very happy in our lives. Like I have everything I want and I want more. Mm-hmm. And it is both at the same time. I am like thrilled with my life and it's a dream come true, and I'm hungry. And like, I can hold both of those things at the same time. So I think it's really important that our continued growth comes from a place of wholeness as opposed to comes from a place of like, I don't think the next coach that I hire is going to complete me. I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I don't think I need to be fixed. Mm-hmm. I just know there's more because I'm still alive.
Yeah, that's great. It's putting yourself in different pools to continually to grow and expand. And
it's also fun.
Yeah. And celebrating though, like you said, where you've gotten to, and making sure that you swim in that gratitude and appreciation and are proud of yourself, which, as you've mentioned before, our culture in today's world is constantly sending this message that we should be hard on ourselves, that we're not doing enough, right? Yeah. And we're never good enough. We've never done enough. It's this constant clanging in our ears that I know I've experienced and many of our viewers are experiencing now. And so I know that if you haven't read Kate's book out there, you need to pick it up because she's going to walk you through really defining that, that script that's been in your head for so long, and coming to a place where you can do less but receive more. And I believe Glennon Doyle said that it was like just taking in a big breath of relief when she picked up your book. And I certainly felt the same way, being an entrepreneur and a mom, and wearing all the hats, and doing all the things, and knowing that you are doing a good job. And it's okay if you can't be everything for everybody, as long as you're intentionally moving in the directions that are getting you closer to your goals and serving your values and your life purpose.
Totally.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Kate. I just wanted to make sure our community knew what you've put out into the universe, so that it is a resource for them to be able to take and implement and create and customize a life that's more in alignment with their values. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for the time that you've spent with us today.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.